Look, I went from being broke, divorced, and overwhelmed to raising thriving kids and building a decent life for myself. In this video, I'll show you exactly how I did it and perhaps how you can rebuild and redefine your family, raise happy, well adjusted children, and go from being reactive to proactive without relying on vague platitudes and empty self help advice. Uh, Look, and by the way, I'm an absolute sucker for self-help books, and I've read them all, and there's certain advice there that really resonates. But what works? What doesn't work? I did a lot of trial and error during this period of time. Uh, let's start with how bad it was. This was at the height of, actually, the depths of the Great Recession. This is about 2008 to 2010. We had three young boys. In fact, our youngest was just a toddler, but our marriage was going bust. Our family business was going bust at the same time. One did not cause the other, but it was a wonderful confluence of events. And while our family business was going bust, I had high paying database consulting work on the side, and that was evaporating because of the conditions of the Great Recession. The bank was illegally foreclosing on our house, and that is another story. This was, again, these were circumstances beyond our control. The bank was lying to us and dealing with us in bad faith so that they could take our house because our house was worth more than we owed on it. Again, it's another story for another time, but suffice it to say, our finances were in trouble. Our marriage was in trouble. At the same time, while all of this was absolutely hitting rock bottom, a very dear friend of mine from early in my college days, and so we'd been friends for decades, she was battling terminal cancer. And in fact, she died during this period. And then, while all that is happening, I was trying to get myself in a better place. I was exercising at a local martial arts studio, and on a very unfortunate event, I ended up tearing my ACL, which is the anterior cruciate ligament holds your knee together. That was a really wild thing to watch in the mirror as my knee gave out. That was that was a visual that has stuck with me ever since then. So with our finances going belly up, marriage going belly up, losing the house, losing a dear friend of mine, and having to rely upon my wife at the time, from whom we knew we were getting a divorce, to help me out while I was recuperating from the surgery, and my leg was immobilized for a couple of days, and even after I could start hobbling around on crutches, try going up and down the stairs. In those sort of situations, you're relying upon somebody to help you out when emotions are running high. It was a rough time. And by the way, if you want to learn more about going from chaos to calm as a single parent, I'm going to be telling you about how I did it here, but I'm also sharing all kinds of resources in a free community that I'm building. Just click in the link in the description. You can join from there, or you can go to singleparentconfidential.com. I've put some links there as well. So singleparentconfidential.com. Anyway, so things were kind of bad. But what did I do about it? You have to understand, I was riding an emotional roller coaster. And when you are zipping around with your moods playing absolute havoc, you're not always in the best frame of mind for problem solving. But there are moments of clarity. There are moments, you can only be so emotionally drained for so long. And sometimes let's just say your eyes can't stay wet all the time. Sometimes your breathing actually has to return to normal again. And during these moments where I wasn't on this emotional roller coaster, I took the time when I could to take a long, hard look at the situation as it really was. I had done a couple of things. I was a firm believer in journaling. It was something that I had done years prior that actually got me into the marriage that I wanted to get into. Got me a fantastic job that moved me across the country, paid to move me across the country with my then girlfriend, who shortly became my fiance. Journaling had helped me to clarify my thought process. And to accomplish those goals. Well, now here we are. Things are absolutely at their worst. But I didn't feel like journaling alone was going to be enough. I felt like I needed to actually have some interaction so that I could hear disinterested third parties, or maybe interested third parties, tell me when I was being a bonehead and maybe give me a little bit of guidance. There was a problem, however. All right, writing in a notebook wasn't going to necessarily give me all the clarity that I was hoping for, but I couldn't necessarily talk to any of our friends. The problem there was that if I did, by this time in our marriage, my friends had become our friends. Her friends had become our friends. There were very few people I could talk to who had no interaction with her. And I did not want to poison the well. Things were bad, but my hope had always been to make things better, if at all possible. And if that did happen, I didn't want to be in a situation where I confide in people who I know wouldn't necessarily talk to her, and then we end up patching things up. But now I've got some friends out there who have sort of been turned against her. And what about our mutual friends? The people who I thought could give me the best advice would be the people who knew her as well as knew me. There weren't a lot of people I felt like I could talk to without putting people in between us. So I began to write it out almost daily on an anonymous blog. At this particular time in history, there was LiveJournal and Blogger and WordPress and Movable Type, and there were all these different kind of blogging platforms that were totally free. You could set up an anonymous account, and I decided I would set up an anonymous account and then see what happens. I would just put my thoughts out there, and if you use one of the existing blogging platforms, other people on that platform could find your blog. You could find other blogs that might be related, and actually, this is what happened. So I ended up creating a blog that did not have my name anywhere on it, so that I did not have to worry about somebody finding the blog and then saying, "Hey, wait a minute, this sounds like my friend and my other friend." Didn't have to worry about that. But it was fascinating. So I did this one on the WordPress platform, but this could have been on any of those platforms. When you made your first post, it had some sort of a heuristic algorithm thing that would say, oh, if you liked this post, you might like these other posts. Now, if I had already had a bunch of other posts, it would recommend other posts from my own blog. However, with my first post on my brand new blog, it was recommending things that had been posted on other blogs. And I looked at the titles and the descriptions, and I'm like, it sounds like these people are going through the same thing. So I clicked and I followed through. And then I'm looking at these entries that were posted by other people who were going through breakup, who also had kids, who also had financial woes, and also had challenges. And everybody's challenges were different. And yet, this was also something I discovered over time, is that while the specifics might be different, they also all had certain things in common. some of these people, the breakups were super, super contentious, and their soon-to-be ex was disappearing from the scene. They were going away. Some of them were sticking around and getting into very brutal and bruising custody battles or other divorce battles over the money. Um, Other people, it was very amicable. Um, Most of the blogs at the time were actually written by women, and so I did end up talking with a lot of mommy bloggers. There weren't quite as many daddy bloggers, but there were a few of us. And I would go to their blog entries, and I would uh, read some things. I would offer support, or I would offer advice if I had any to give in the comments section. And the way the blogging software worked at the time is if people saw your comment, uh, they could click on your name, your username, and it would bring them to your blog. I didn't really realize that that was how that worked at the time. I just sort of stumbled upon this where I would see other people's blogs. I would engage in the conversation in the comments section, but then they would come over to my blog and they would start engaging with the things I was posting about my own situation. And I felt heard, I felt validated, and they had provided me with advice that because they could also see things from a slightly different angle from the way I was looking at them. This led to us forming a kind of a community. And over time, over the course of years, eventually we all became, not we all, but many of us became a very tight knit community of people scattered across North America who would help each other out, would sound each other out for advice. And we learned a lot about each other's situations, became very good friends over time. Um, and this is actually so this was one of the most important things that helped me to move forward was finding a community of people who were facing the same situation. Some of them had advice. Some of them, all they could offer was their moral support, and that mattered. It really did matter. I was finding a new tribe of my own, and I could talk to them and not worry about turning them against my soon to be ex wife. I could also count on them to give me advice that wasn't tarnished by uh, them having direct encounters with her personality or whatever. So their judgment wouldn't be clouded, I think, in a lot of cases. Um, so that was one thing. I was writing it out. I was getting all the benefits of journaling, but I was also getting the benefits of community. And that was really key to me. Now, I also over the course of time, I do have an analytical mind. I was working, as I said, as a database programmer as one of my gigs, and kind of like a doctor, kind of like a computer programmer. It's a question of triaging what's wrong, deciding what needs to be fixed more urgently than what else, right? So you're prioritizing where you're going to focus your efforts, and it very quickly became apparent what needed to be addressed first. And this is the thing: when you are being overwhelmed and you are drowning in it, it's really hard. You cannot solve all of the problems all at once, but you can, again, when you have moments of calm and clarity, you can work through, here are the big issues I need to attack. And then once you have that figured out, it's like, okay, where can I get some quick wins? Where can I start laying the groundwork for future wins? Uh, Going back to the doctor metaphor, right? The doctor discovers that you have a bunch of symptoms, but one of your symptoms is chest pains. The doctor's going to focus in on that first before the doctor is going to worry about the fact that your elbow also hurts. Um, so I had several things that I knew I was going to have to address, and the first one was finances. It was the money wasn't coming in initially, and a lot of that had to do with not. A lot of that had to do with the banks putting the squeeze on the business, which had a domino effect to leading to the banks putting the squeeze on the house. And I had to bring in money faster. First of all, to stop stop the ship from sinking, but then also to try to get that water out of the boat so that we could get back on safer safer level. So I had to deal with the finances. The second thing I had to do was negotiate the divorce. Again, I started with the attitude of how can I fix this? How can I solve this? Um, and the problem was the it, our differences were irreconcilable. We had different. It's a lot to get into. I contend she's a good person. She is a good person. She was a good person. There was a reason I married her. I contend that I was a good person. Neither of us cheated. Neither of us, there was no abuse or anything like that. Um, but the marriage could not function. We just were not uh, defining marriage the same way, and it was a problem. So, so that was the second thing. Was once it became obvious that we couldn't stay married, how do we navigate the divorce? And remember, we had 3 children. They were young, and the youngest was a toddler. The oldest was only just a couple years into school. Um, so, with regard to that, I started to, because I was blogging, as I mentioned, I started to map out kind of a resolution for this is how I'm going to conduct myself while going through the process of divorce. And these resolutions were key to how things played out later on. Um, as I mentioned, I had been practicing martial arts at an excellent studio. The ACL problem was absolutely a fluke, but the thing about a lot of martial arts programs is it's not just physical discipline, it's also mental discipline. And one of the things at this particular martial arts program, it was a Taekwondo school, was that you began every session with a couple of mantras. And one of them was you would go through the top 4 principles of the school. And number one was uh, to respect yourself, your family, the school, and all of its members or all of its students. And so I just sort of modified that as my first resolution was kind of, think of it as a New Year's resolution. I was resolved to respect myself, my family, my tribe, and everyone in my tribe. And of course, the definition of my tribe was changing. It was my friends, but it was also the community that I was building online. Excuse me, and it was. And then it was also communities I was finding with regard to other people who were experiencing the same sort of financial woes that we were. There were a lot of people who were in the same kind of boat that we were in, either with regard to relationships or finances or health problems. So so that was key. Was I was expanding the definition of who my people are, who my tribe is, and I was resolved to respect myself, my family, my tribe, and everyone in it. The second resolution was something that I had just sort of come to realize, not only from the self help books that I had read previously, but also from reading and interacting with the blogging community, was you have to jettison what isn't working in order to make room for what will. Staying in a doomed marriage prevents you from having a healthy relationship with a partner. Um, that's one example. But likewise, holding on to a business that isn't generating income, you have to jettison it in order to find a new source of income. So resolution number two: jettison what isn't working to make room for what will. The third resolution that I had come to was uh, don't fixate on the means, fixate on the desired results. Um, and this is something that I've seen time and time again. When I was in college, I studied history. And history is full of examples of movements that end up becoming more about the movement than about why they formed in the first place. There was an organization called Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, or Drunk Driving, Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and this organization had formed initially to try to prevent uh, uh, the large amount of traffic fatalities that were happening as a result of people drinking, getting behind the wheel of a car, and then driving while their judgment was impaired. They would get into an accident and people would get hurt. People would die. It was called Mothers Against Drunk Driving because it was parents who were losing their children, who were initially motivated to set this up. But over time, and initially they were lobbying for legislation that would essentially say that bars would have to stop serving people if they started showing signs of being impaired. That there would be breathalyzer tests that would be administered so that if you were pulled over, even if you hadn't been in an accident, if you were pulled over and they suspected that you were drinking, they could administer this test. And if your blood alcohol level was above a certain amount, that would be a crime. And the thought was that if you could do that, you would reduce the number of people who were on the road who were driving while they were under the influence. Um, they also lobbied to raise the drinking age so that you had to be older before you could start drinking. The idea being that somebody who is older would make better decisions about drinking in the first place, so that they wouldn't necessarily overdrink and then get behind the wheel of a car. These are all great ideas, but over time, what happened with this organization was it became more about raising money and keeping their own lobbyists employed than it was about solving the drunk driving problem. History is full of organizations that have lost sight of what the goal was, because they ended up being fixated on the means of how they were going to get there. So it's a very long-winded way of saying that became very important to me to not focus on how we were going to get there. What was important was where we were going to go. This became very important during the negotiation of the divorce because there were a lot of things going into the negotiations. And when I say the negotiations, we started with a moderator because we knew that if you started with lawyers lawyers make money on conflict. Even if the lawyers have all the best intention in terms of trying to look out for their client, Their goal is to look out for their client. Their goal is not necessarily to arrive at a reasonable compromise. So we started with a mediator. And there were things that if you had told me at the beginning of the process that there were things that I ended up agreeing to. If you had told me that I would agree to it, I would say that's absolutely silly. There's no way I would agree to that because that would be ridiculous. But when we got there, when we got to a point of contention, and I would think about what does this mean with regard to what is most important to me, I found that there were a lot of things I would be willing to sacrifice temporarily in order to have a longer lasting positive side effect. This is particularly important with regard to the kids because my number one priority was emerging from the divorce as whole as a person as I could be and maintaining my family with my children as best as possible. And let me be very clear about this. I was absolutely fixated on what is going to help the kids remain as well adjusted as possible. And so this meant we were going to have to smooth over some sources of conflict. Because if the conflict continued between the parents, the parents, if the conflict continued there, it would end up affecting the kids. I was absolutely dedicated to the idea of I will not use and I will not put up with the children being used as pawns in some sort of a power play between their mother and myself. And one of the things about problem solving is sometimes what you need to do is you need to remember you have assets, you have resources, and you also have liabilities. And I will say this, one of my assets was my soon to be ex wife also wanted to make sure that the kids would end up in a situation where they could grow up to be as healthy and well adjusted as possible. So this was very fortunate in our particular case. There was still a lot of conflict. There were still a lot of things that needed to be resolved. And there were a couple of times where I was very concerned that we were going to have to end up going to lawyers because we were nearing boundaries that I was not willing to cross. But because we stayed fixated on what our desired result was, and because the integrity of ourselves, and when I say integrity, when I talk about staying whole, what I mean is that we resolve our financial issues such that we can see an end point to the entanglement that we had. Because remember, we had a house that was being foreclosed on. We had debt that was going to be unsecured, but that was still, we were responsible for as a married couple. That the loans couldn't be split up. The banks weren't going to say, okay, we'll take half of it and you're responsible for it, and we'll take half of it and you're responsible for it. As far as the banks were concerned, if you don't pay your half, you're both still on the hook for it. So how do we negotiate things such that we can get out of the situation with an end in sight to where we could make our own financial decisions for ourselves without having to be beholden to banks or the other or our ex-spouse indefinitely? So that's what I'm talking about when I say coming out of the situation whole, as opposed to piece of me is going to forever be owned by the banks or my ex-wife or whatever the case may be. And likewise, by the way, same goal for her. I mean, the goal was for both of us to emerge as whole as possible for ourselves but also for our children, so that we knew that our children were going to be taken care of. Which, by the way, you might assume correctly, we very much wanted 50-50 custody. And again, I think in this regard, I do recognize not all divorces end up having that particular element working in its favor, but it did work in ours. So this is resolution number 3, and it's a resolution that has resonated. All the other things about respecting myself, my family, my tribe, and everyone in it. Um, Over time, that mantra didn't keep repeating in my head because the lesson was built into me. I learned to treat people and treat myself with respect. Um, and likewise, with regard to letting go of things that aren't working, so that you can make room for things that are. That's always something that I could be resolved to do, but it was always very difficult. It's why I stayed married as long as I did. Why I stayed in a marriage that wasn't working for as long as I did. Um, and that's on me. And that is, if we were making a list of assets and liabilities, I could make the resolution, but I got to tell you, that was one I struggled with and continue to struggle with. But that third resolution of not fixating on the means, uh, it's something that the phrase keeps popping up over and over and over again. Keep your eyes on the prize. Don't be distracted by all this other nonsense that's happening outside. Keep your eyes on the prize. And then the fourth resolution that I came to was, in order to make sure that I get where I want to go, set short-term goals and set long-term goals. This is going to come up in a little bit. I'm going to go into more detail about that in a little bit because it's important. It's a very important concept. But you need to stem the bleeding first. You've got to have your short term. How can I deal with the immediate issues? Where are my quick wins? Where are my shorter term goals? And where are my longer term goals? Because you can't always be in reactionary mode. You also want to move toward a proactive mode of, okay, the house situation is resolved. Now I can move toward the idea of eventually maybe owning another house, or maybe now that I don't need to worry about that, I can be focused on um, rebuilding my romantic life, or whatever the case may be. So you want long-term goals, but I got to tell you, yes, I wanted to have a healthy romantic relationship, but that was not a short-term goal. That was a future goal. Take care of it in the future. Right now, I got to keep my eyes on the prize. That means getting out of the divorce as whole as possible, both for the sake of myself and for my kids. So those were these 4 resolutions. Um, and again, keep in mind, I'm still listing the things that I needed to prioritize. Those resolutions were all about resolving the divorce. So I had to deal with the finances. That was first, or not first. It was the highest priority. The finances were going to have to be addressed, and negotiating the divorce was going to have to happen. Um, these two were absolutely the highest priorities. In terms of things that needed to be fixed, our kids didn't need to be fixed. Our kids were doing fine. We needed to make sure they stayed fine. We needed to make sure that we didn't make the situation bad. So this is the list of problems that had to be dealt with. And again, we were fortunate in that the troubles in our marriage hadn't boiled over into troubles with raising the kids, because we were always focused on how to be good parents. Which, by the way, I don't know if you got a manual for how to be the perfect parent, but we never got ours. We were still learning it as we were going, which was true of everybody that we've ever met. It's not like we had all the answers as far as parenting goes, but we were doing a good job of learning as we went, learning from our mistakes. We certainly made our share of mistakes, but we learned from them, to our credit. Um, the next thing, though, that was also a problem that needed to be worked out was establishing the new living arrangements. We're getting divorced. Can one of us try to hold on to the house? Or, and in the end, the answer was no. Um, it was financially possible that I could have held on to the house, but when all was said and done, to do so while it was financially possible to do so would have ended up blowing up other things. There's no way we would have been able to cooperate as equal parents if I had held on to the house because I was able to rebuild my income faster than she was able to rebuild her income. There would be a lot of resentment. There would be, and plus, it really would become a problem if the kids, when they're with one parent, are living in this very comfortable house where they had spent all of their life up until that point, and then they could go when they were with the other parent to this teeny tiny house that was wasn't as big, wasn't didn't have all the nice amenities of being new construction and all the rest of that. Didn't have the luxury of not worrying about a landlord and all the rest of that. It really did make sense that when we split up the living arrangements, that we go to living arrangements that were relatively on par with each other, and there was no way that we would be able to maintain two houses like the one house that we were starting from. So the house unfortunately had to be sacrificed. How do we establish um, the new living arrangements? So that was a high priority. The fourth priority was, how do we recast our family using a new mold? This was not the end of our family. It was the beginning of a new definition of our family. And I use the word recast because you use a mold to make your cast, and whatever material you're using, how it ends up shaping up depends upon the mold. And so I use the term recast because it is a very good metaphor for what we needed to do. But over time, I have also come to realize it makes for a great acronym to remember key points as to how to build our new lives that would work out absolutely for the best, both for the parent as well as for the children. And when I say the parent, I'm from each of our points of view. Okay, so there's recasting our family in a new mold, but then there's also, how do I recast myself and my community? And earlier I was using the metaphor of the doctor doing triage to decide what needs to be treated first. As far as this priority goes, priority number 5 here, recasting my life and my community. I'm reminded of the phrase, physician, heal thyself. It's one thing to say, how am I going to rebuild the family? But I had to rebuild myself as well. In order to be the best possible father I could be to my children, I was going to have to attend to my own healing. There's a if you've ever gone flying, they tell you in the event of an emergency where the cabin of the airplane depressurizes, there's these oxygen masks drop from the panel above you. Put your own oxygen mask on first, so that you don't lose consciousness before you can get the oxygen masks on your children. They announce this at the beginning of every flight so that everybody knows, if you are traveling with children, you have to get your oxygen mask on first. Otherwise, you can't help your children. It's the same thing here. I knew I was going to have to heal from the devastation of the divorce, the devastation of the financial ruin, the devastation of losing a dear friend, the devastation of not being able to trust my leg for a period of time. And actually, the surgery after to repair my ACL, that ended up impacting my ability to fly, among other things. So even though I did end up, uh, my number one priority was fixing finances, I did find a job that would allow me to replace the income that had been lost. But and it would also allow me enough flexibility to be present as a parent when my kids needed to be home. We could not afford daycare. Uh, I don't know many families with multiple children who can. And we didn't have family members in town. We had moved across the country. We'd moved from coast to coast, uh, and so without family nearby, uh, I needed a job that was going to allow me the flexibility to where, if one of the kids was sick and couldn't go to preschool, couldn't go to school, whatever. We fortunately live in an area where preschool is a possibility. Um, that I could come home and take care of what needed to be taken care of. So uh anyway, so yeah, so there's the in order for me to be the best possible father I could be, I was going to have to heal myself from all this devastation. Oh, and I had mentioned the thing about the job and the ACL. Because of the torn ACL, I could sometimes my job was going to require me to travel, and because of our custody arrangement, I could travel on days that the kids were with their mom. Um, but I couldn't travel while my knee was healing from surgery. So that ended up being an interesting complicating factor. Everything that I'm talking about in terms of the things that needed to be addressed and the actions that I took to start addressing them, um, this all played out over a long period of time. It's not like by the end of year one, after we separated our households, everything was figured out. We had our households figured out. We had the financial situation figured out. My health was resolved. Um, Things had to happen in a certain order, and some things took time, and some things that you fixed ended up breaking again, and then you would have to fix it again. Um, and keep coming back to this idea of, if if uh, if something isn't working for you, you have to let it go so you can make room for something else that does. In this particular case, I my ex and I managed to, for the sake of the kids as well as our own convenience, we found houses that we could rent that were in close proximity both to each other and to the schools, the elementary school where the younger kids would be going, which they were all young at the outset. We were close enough to where the kids could walk to school from either house. The kids could walk to either house from the other. But then her landlord situation changed and she had to move a little bit further away. She got a slightly bigger house, but it was a little bit further away. Well, then that landlord decided to sell that house. Real estate was really wonky coming out of the Great Recession. And so then that landlord sold that house. And so then she had to move again and she moved a little bit further away again. And again, slightly better place than the place that she had left. But it was a little bit further away. So there were some conveniences that we had found that ultimately couldn't hold because other there were other intervening factors. So I don't want to make it sound like everything got resolved all at once, but when you start solving one problem, it makes it easier to focus on the remaining ones. And then when you solve the next one, it's easier to solve the next one, and so on down the line. We always all have problems. There was never a time, and to this day, even now, life is not problem free. But I can tell you, I mean, again, this was 15 years ago as I record this video. I can tell you that things are a lot better after these 15 years. I could have made this video, you know, before the pandemic, and be saying pretty much everything I'm saying now, uh, because things had stabilized. As you're going through it, if it takes a few years for things to stabilize, that seems really brutal. But when you look at it from the other side and you're looking back, you're like, you know what? It was steady progress all the way down the line. Things, yes, there were setbacks, but I say this because if you happen to be in a situation where you are dealing with having to rebuild your definition of family, having to rebuild your relationship with your children, and potentially their relationship with another parent. The time is going to elapse. Where do you want to be once that time has passed, right? 3 years from now, it's going to be 3 years in the future. When you arrive at 3 years in the future, when you look back, where do you want to see your trajectory? It's like if you want to learn how to play piano, you could start today, and then in a year you'll have a year's worth of experience at playing piano. You might be pretty good after a year, or you don't start today, but a year from now is still going to happen a year from now. And if you don't start soon, a year from now, you still won't know how to play piano. It's the same thing with regard to fixing your life. Um, start start now. And you can't take care of everything all at once. Take care of what you can. Every time you manage to get one issue relatively under control, it makes it a lot easier to get the next issue under control. This is why I talk about start with whatever quick wins you can, because those quick wins have an accumulative effect. It's like that whole compound interest thing that we all learned about when we were in grade school. So anyway, so those were the things that those were the big priorities that I needed to work on. And I attacked them accordingly. Yes, there was a recession going on, and we had financial issues. Well, as part of negotiating the divorce, one of the things that we came to was a lot of the debt. I kept a lot of the debt, but I also kept some corresponding resources, namely my whatever money I'd put away for retirement. Pardon me. Um, Everybody's financial situation and everybody's financial negotiation is going to be different. This was equitable, I assure you. We both agreed that trying to have both of us maintain the debt was going to uh, it was going to be a mess. Trying to have both of us splitting up the my retirement fund was going to be a mess. She did have a retirement fund, by the way. Mine was just a little bit larger. So, but without getting too much into the specifics there, the whole point is um, had to resolve the income situation. Well, focus on getting a job. So I focused on getting a job. I also had to focus on getting a job that would uh, allow me to continue to take care of my kids when I had the kids. The custody arrangement we came to, by the way, and again, everybody's custody arrangement situation is going to be different. For us, what worked out best was what they call 223. I would have she has the kids for 2 days. I have the kids for 2 days, and then we would alternate the 3-day weekend. Um, she pointed out that if you map it out, 2 days, 2 days, 3 days, 2 days, 2 days, 3 days, what you end up with is actually 2255. So if she gets the first 2 days, and then I get the next 2 days, and then she gets the 3-day weekend, and then she also gets the 2 days after that. Uh, that's five, and then I get the next 2 days, and then I get the following weekend. That's five. So 2255. But it's called a 223 plan. The reason that worked for us is it made every day predictable. Oh, today's Monday. That means the kids are going to have dinner at her house. And that means that, one of the kids has music lessons on that day. That means we need to make sure that instrument is at her house. Um, but that meant I could I could take a class on Monday night, or I could join a, some activity. I could do my martial arts class on Monday night, that kind of thing. Likewise, oh, it's Wednesday, and one of our kids wants to sign up for I don't know, gymnastics. Well, gymnastics classes on Wednesday nights. That means I know that I have to have the gym bag ready to go on Wednesday so that I can bring the kid to gymnastics and have his gym bag ready to go. It made planning so much easier. I will also note that uh, if there were to be any possibility of having any sort of a romantic relationship with somebody, it is a lot easier to plan events with your potential romantic partner if you know ahead of time who's responsible for what on what days. It's like, oh, do you want to get together on this day? Well, I don't know. What day of the week is it? Oh, it's a Thursday. All right. I'm not available on Thursdays because I've got the kids. Uh, so anyway, it was a system that worked for us that would not work for every family, but I mention it. Some families work better with the 1 week on, 1 week off, or and I'm talking about 50-50 arrangements. Sometimes it works better if it's not a 50-50 arrangement. If the breadwinner has the kids on the week on say weekends and holidays, and then the non-breadwinner has if that's how things are broken up. In our case, we were both working, so that was how that went. Okay, so what was the outcome? I had mentioned earlier that one of my resolutions was to set short term goals and long term goals. And I also mentioned that I had worked all of this out as part of my journaling, but I was journaling in public under a pseudonym. And In preparing to tell you this story, I ended up looking at my list of goals, and it is fascinating to me that these goals that I wrote down. Let's see, I'm staring at it right now. I posted this in March of 2010. So as I record this, 15 years ago. Uh, and I'm just fascinated to look at this now and see what the outcomes were and how the long-term goals that I had established ended up, uh, how they came into play. Long-term goal was number one: enjoy raising amazing children, to give them the tools they need to make their way in this world and contribute in a positive and meaningful way themselves. Uh, it's 15 years later. One of the kids has graduated from college. One of the kids is in college, and one of the kids is in high school. And I would say I have enjoyed raising amazing children. And I believe that both their mother and I have given them the tools they need to make their way in this world. They're still children, and they still need their parents. And they are all three still in our lives, even the one who has graduated college. Um, so that was a long-term goal. You're watching this video, you probably have a similar desire to have a strong relationship with your children and to help your children to grow up to become the best possible human beings they can. Um, List that, put that down, write it down, commit to it. As long-term goals go, uh, I don't know. It's really neat to be able to look at it from the future and look back 15 years and say, yeah, accomplished that. Long-term goal: enjoy a mutually satisfying, loving relationship with a woman with whom I am not only sexually, emotionally, and intellectually compatible, but exceedingly well matched. I want to be loving and to be loved. I want to feel loving and feel loved. I want a relationship that helps me to be a better person, to strive further and accomplish more than I would be able to do on my own, and where I can do the same for my partner. Um, yes, I was able to attain that. Now, I am not currently in a romantic relationship, but I was for many years. And that romantic relationship ended because of reasons that had nothing to do with us not being a good match. We were a great match. Everything that I just listed was accomplished. The problem was distance. The problem was uh, her custody arrangement with her ex versus my custody arrangement with my ex uh, made it difficult for us to live in the same town for any prolonged period of time. And that was unfortunate that that was the way it happened. But the point is, I had a goal of enjoying a healthy romantic relationship, and just the fact that I was able to do that repaired so much in me, realizing that I am capable of having a healthy romantic relationship, that I can be loving and be loved, that I can give and receive um, support, affection, all of the things that you would want from a healthy romantic partnership. So there's that. Long-term goal: enjoy enough financial and material abundance that I can provide a comfortable lifestyle for myself, my family, and my loved ones, and also contribute to the betterment of causes and individuals I care about. Yes, I was able to do that as well. Now, notice that this does not list any specific material goals. That long-term goal wasn't about, I want to own a house, or I want to drive a nice car, or whatever. It was very much, I want to enjoy enough abundance, financial abundance, to where I can provide a comfortable lifestyle for myself and my family, my loved ones, and also contribute to causes that I care about. Sometimes that means volunteering time as opposed to volunteering money, but you can only volunteer the time if you're not having to work 20 hours of every day. And I did reach that point. So I had to work very hard at the beginning, but over time, as the financial situation stabilized, I also didn't have to work as much overtime and that kind of thing. So, yes, mission accomplished. Long term goal: enjoy expanding and improving my creative outlets. I am somebody who likes to write. And I like to write stories. I like to write songs. Um, I'm not claiming that I'm any good at either of those, but I have continued to enjoy having creative outlets, um, and it's very fulfilling to be able to do that. Um, I I think that a lot of people do benefit from having some sort of a hobby, some sort of a thing that they like to do just for the sake of doing it, not because not because it brings in money or because it supports a cause. Um, in addition to writing, I also ended up collecting playing cards, which is a weird hobby, but somehow I fell into that one, and I've met a lot of very cool people who also because they collect playing cards. So that was also something that I would add to the list of creative fulfillment. And then the last long-term goal that I had listed, again, this is back in 2010, was to continue to enjoy excellent health. I knew, the ACL surgery was that was a thing that was going to eventually heal, right? My knee was going to heal. I was going to be able to engage again in sporting activities. That said, I never quite got back to it the way I had been, and so as a result, I did kind of gain weight since then. I have also lost weight since then. In fact, right now I'm very gradually losing weight. Right now, I am enjoying health. A recent checkup with the doctor, and the doctor was like, for a guy your age, you are doing just fine. Uh, a lot of that is luck of the draw. A lot of that is outside of your control, but a lot of it is also within your control as well. To the extent that I would sometimes self-medicate with Dr. Pepper. That's not as good for your health, but to the extent that I go for walks and do the stay physically active. Um, I've been able to make sure that my health hasn't suffered as a result of inattention. So those were long-term goals, and here it is, 15 years later, and I can say I've addressed each of those. Um, I also had short-term goals of gently but firmly remove myself from my marriage and do so with honor, integrity, and respect, both for my wife and my children, as well as for myself. The essence of this goal is to improve the lives of myself, my wife, and my children by separating from my wife. Um, I called that a short-term goal because I knew that was something that would be resolved within a year or two, and it was. And I kept my eyes on the prize and accomplished it. And I do genuinely believe that all of our lives did actually end up being better than they would have been if we had stayed in a marriage that was fundamentally broken. Short-term goal: stem my current financial bleeding, resolve the condition of my current business as favorably as possible, seek full-time employment, and reduce the number of extraneous commitments I have made with my time. Yes, that was obviously one of the first things I had to do, and I did manage to accomplish that. Short-term goal: all that notwithstanding, resume work on and drive to completion my current creative projects. I actually wrote specifically my novel writing project, and truth be told, I did not finish the novel that I was talking about. However, I ended up joining a band. We ended up releasing some songs. I don't know if they're any good, but I like them. My bandmates like them, and we have a good time. We have a good time playing. And it's kind of cool to be able to say, I brought some art into the world. Some people might even like it. And then short-term goal, continue advancing in Taekwondo, continue to restrict certain very bad items from my diet. Yep, that was a short-term goal, and I did manage to accomplish that once my knee healed. So anyway, um, that was what I had written 15 years ago. I bring this up to drive home the point that there is a future where all of your current woes are behind you. There's a future you who can look back and say, man, that was a crappy time and things are better now. So just letting you know. So I've reviewed the short-term and long-term goals. It's 15 years later. Where are they now? As I mentioned, my oldest child has graduated from college, has a healthy relationship with his mother as well as his father. My second oldest child is currently attending college. Freshman year was very, very rough. And this is, I mentioned earlier, the kids still need their parents. And because we have developed a healthy parental relationship, a family relationship, my kids know that they can come to me or they can come to their mother when they need help. And our oldest absolutely struggled with college, largely because there was a pandemic that fundamentally altered the nature of going to college. And our second child just had a brutal time of it freshman year. Essentially went to a college that was just not a good fit, and solved that problem by transferring to a college that was a better fit and is a better fit. And he's enjoying so much better experience now. He likes his college. He has friends there. He's excelling academically, and you couldn't want anything more for your college age kids. Pardon me for getting choked up about this, but uh, they're tears of joy as opposed to sadness. I really love my boys, and uh, and I know that they love me. I know that they love their mother. I know that their mother loves them. I know that not all single parenting situations involve both parents, and that's okay. There are many different definitions of what is okay. There are also families out there where the parents are together and the children live with both parents until they go off to their new lives. We had to find a definition of family that worked for us. And my children and I had to find a definition of our relationship that worked for us as well. Okay. Um, Something else that I think is and I also wanted to mention the youngest is in high school right now and has an eye toward college and is doing well. Uh, so so there you go. Where are they now? That's where they are now. I will also note that their mother is uh, doing well in career, doing well with her own friends. We can, and something that was important to the two of us is we needed to make it absolutely clear to our friends that they do not need to feel like they have to pick one of us. They didn't have to choose. They could still be friends to both of us. It has been remarkable that we've been able to escape a lot of the awkwardness that many divorced couples have not managed to avoid. Again, your mileage may vary, and that's okay. So that's where are they now? Um, Something that's also a very key outcome that I had touched upon is that the kids know that I'm in their corner. The kids know that their mother is in their corner. Um, there have been struggles. There will continue to be struggles, but our children don't have to face those struggles alone. They can reach out, and they do reach out. They have reached out. And in fact, I have been very touched that they have felt comfortable enough to reach out when things are just not going well for them. Uh, they know that they can count on us. And a lot of that comes down to a mantra that has served me very well. And that is the kids are not always convenient, but they are never a burden. When you're in the thick of it, one of the kids gets sick and needs to be sent home from school, and it's your day, and you have to deal with the exigencies of work, and you also need to take care of your kid. And when they're young, you can't leave them on their own. You have to be the one to go get them. Um, uh, there's these challenges come up, but remember, or at least this mantra served me very well. Yeah, this is not convenient. The kids are not always convenient, but they are never a burden. And by always keeping that in mind, uh, I am absolutely convinced that they felt that. They recognized they are not a burden. Um, so anyway, I pass that along as something that was very effective for me. So I haven't even. There's so much I want to tell you. Um, by the way, I do currently have a limited number of spots open to work with parents who are uh, working on the chaos right now to try to bring in a sense of calm, to try to get things under control, to try to build that roadmap forward so that 15 years in the future they can look back and say, "Man, what a mess! I am so glad that things worked out as well as they have." So, if you would like to work with me one on one to get from chaos to clarity as a single parent, if you're curious, there's a link again in the description, uh, or you can visit singleparentconfidential.com. First come, first serve. Um, so, all that said, with all the stuff that I've learned, I've come to realize. Again, I had mentioned that there's an acronym, RECAST, which not only kind of sums up the idea of rebuilding your life, but also the elements of what it takes to provide the best possible environment for your kids and the best possible environment for yourself. Remember the mantra: the kids are not always convenient, but they are never a burden. If what you are doing isn't working, do something else. And that acronym for recast: respect, consistency, agency, safety, and trust. The respect includes you have to have respect for yourself, and you have to instill that respect in the people around you. That includes your children, that includes your ex, if your ex is still in the picture. Um, Respect does include boundaries. Uh, the consistency, agency, safety, and trust that is what the kids need in order to become their best selves. They need consistency from you as a parent. They need agency. They need to feel like they can make choices. Uh, when they're little, the choices are, you can brush your teeth before the story, or you can brush your teeth after the story. But there's going to be a story. There's going to be brushing teeth. That kind of thing. The choices are important. Agency is important. The kids need to know that they have uh, um, a say in how things go, even though obviously the parent has more of a say the younger they are. Um, they also need to know that they're safe in your house. They need to know that they are safe with you. And they need to have a sense of trust. They need to be able to trust you. Those are two different things. Um, it's one thing if your child is feels safe, but also can't believe a word you say. Um, Trust is something that is really hard to earn, and it is so fundamentally important. Uh, and if you're able to build that trust, it is amazingly great for both the kids and for yourself. And I will always come back to this: keep your eyes on the prize. Whether you're at the very beginning and you have to decide what is important here, decide it through the lens of, does this serve the prize? Does this serve my highest goals? If it doesn't, then maybe you can let it go, or you can let it play out the way it's playing out. This is my story. This is there's much more to what I have learned about parenting through the community that I had built with the other mommy bloggers and daddy bloggers, and also with people I have worked with since then who have had very different situations come up where they find themselves in a parenting situation they did not expect, either because of death, deployment, divorce. Um, there's any number of conditions that can come up where either you expected to be a married parent and then you discover you're a single parent. Or it could be you're just minding your own business, doing your thing, and oh, what do you know? Your sibling has passed away, and now you are responsible for your sibling's child. Uh, that is a very specific example. There are a lot of ways you can end up finding yourself in a situation where you are an unexpected, sudden single parent. I've worked with many people and have just come up with uh, uh, patterns and tools that help to build a roadmap toward a better tomorrow. But this is the first proof that it works, is that I had to go through this, and I have emerged on the other side, uh, and have arrived at a very good place that I could have only hoped for when I started down this road. And hopefully, we can help you get there as well. Thanks for listening to my story. If you have any questions, comments, visit the links, or visit the website, singleparentconfidential.com, and reach out. Let's talk. All my best. Take care.